Hey, welcome to MotoGP Mac. Another weekend of racing. Another discussion. This weekend we just have World Superbike and the going ons behind the scenes. So, which is that we've had a lot of.
Yeah. World Superbike. So we're recording this on Saturday, and you won't see this on Monday, so it's okay to say that Bautista won the race.
Yeah,
good bit of a ding dong between Petrucci and Johnny Ray for the final podium. Look, and I suppose the major news in MotoGP was what happened this week with the concessions.
No, you know it got me fired up.
Yeah, a little bit excited about this, Jake. But look, I 100% understand both sides of the view of it, right? I'm not saying right or wrong. I can understand. And yeah, look, maybe it is down to a popularity contest, but Carlos Espinosa did come out and he said 100% the driver of this is that he does not want more manufacturers to leave the sport.
Yeah, but the Japanese been pulling that for how long? How long has Honda been saying, "Oh, we're going to leave," and Yamaha, "Oh, we're going to leave," because they know that the Dorna's going to bend. It gives them excuse.
But the other side of this, Jake, right? It's not just Dorna can turn around and change the regulation. If there's a regulation there, they have to get the team's approval.
Right.
Has to. It's in the.
Yeah, they say that. Look at the. They say that, but look at the front end.
That no. 100% wrong there on that. That was not a regulation. There was no regulation around.
Oh, it didn't break any regulations. They had it on the bike.
Exactly, and therefore, when Dorna put in that ban, and the other side of the coin, I did some research on that. Right, it was actually the teams wanted it banned. Dorna suggested the ban, and then when Dorna was informed that Ducati was ready to race it, it put it back on the table to remove the ban, and that 5 out of the 6 teams at the time said, hell no, we want to uphold the ban. So it was the teams put in the front right height device ban, not Dorna officially.
Not Dorna officially.
So this time what has to happen now, right? And I think Ducati and them are playing it very, very smartly. What has to happen for this regulation to go through? Carlos Espinosa can't just turn around and tell the FIM to write the regulation. That's not how it works, right? The FIM, IERTA, the MSMA, which is the Manufacturers Association, and Dorna will meet and discuss that regulation change of concessions. And only with full agreement of the teams and the FIM can Dorna push that through. So here is where in my view, things lie. And everything that Ducati has said was that we're open to helping others. But you can be 110% fucking guaranteed they are not going to do that out of the goodness of their heart. So
no, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't. So, how many breaks did they get over the years?
This is the other side of the coin, right? And people in the comments rightly are saying that the Ducati bikes were developed with concessions. The KTM bike was developed with concessions. The Aprilia bike was developed with concessions. Now, that's why I went back in. If you read or listened to the video that I did, I looked at the points accrued for concession points accrued in the past 18 months. And Honda had 6 points, which would have meant that they would have lost concessions for 2024. And Yamaha had 19 points. So definitely would have lost concessions, right? So where this then put it is like, okay, what is the possible concessions? Like Ducati, like I know Rivola is like, hell no, we're not going to do this, right? And it's all about how you play this game, in my view, right? The best thing, I think this can actually be a brilliant thing for everyone. I think what is going to happen, personally myself, is that there probably could be a free development year next year.
That's totally agreement. This could be a break for even the Japanese. I mean, they need
For
it.
everyone.
They
For
need
everyone.
to be on their own. They need
For
to get
everyone.
shoved out of the nest. Let's put it that way.
But the problem, and this is why I think that it could be a free development year for everyone next year, and that's because in 2025, the new regulations come in.
Right.
Okay. So I think what's going to actually happen is that there's going to be realistically, every team is going to get concessions next year to develop their new bike for 2025. And that's the cover or the mask that it's going to flow in under, in my view.
It would be the smart way to go. Or I call it same thing as I call it open testing. But
no, it won't be. It won't be open testing. It will be the same as concessions currently.
Okay. You know I mean? Well, if you're going to do it, you might as well just let it go. I mean, because Honda and Yamaha need to catch up. So if they need to catch up, and you want to be fair, let them have as much testing as they want. Let Ducati have as much testing as they want. Everybody has as much testing as they want. You know, they have 3 times the budget of the Europeans. They should be able to catch up. If they don't catch up with the huge budgets they have, then it's on them.
But no, you see, it's not about catching up, and this is where people are going to go wrong at this. It's developing the new engine types to run the new fuel systems and all of this stuff for the 2025 season. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
far they've trained. It's not that the new fuel system isn't that hard to switch over.
They say it's not that hard until they fucking try and run it at full blast and then fucking thing blows up.
I was wondering that myself, thinking the same thing. It's like, well, okay, it might seem easy now, but when do you have to do a whole race on it?
You know, it's easy in fucking paper, and then you fucking show the Honda should be the best fucking thing in the world on paper.
On paper,
on paper, until they get to the track and they find out that it's not even a pig, because that's insulting a pig. do you know what I mean? But I think, in my view, I think for concessions, I think this it's actually going to be a really good thing, as long as it's shared equally.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to, Ducati are not going to be putting their 40, 50, 60, 70 million into it and go, oh yeah, by the way, Yamaha, Honda have open testing next year just to catch up with us.
I mean, that's what they're looking for. That's what Dorn is looking for.
It's not. I think Dorna is not that fucking stupid, to be honest. You know what I mean? They know.
I think they're shooting too high to make it come down lower. It's like in a negotiation. You shoot. When you first put that first shot out that you know you're not going to get, that's ridiculously high. They're hoping to get 90% of it.
Yeah, exactly. Look, and that's where I think things are. Espinosa was coming out and whatever you say, and he's like, there will be concessions. Do you know what I mean? Or there will be an update to the current concessions thing. Which, look, I think if it's done right, it's done smartly, and fairly, more so than anything. And I think, I don't think any one of those team managers or team principals or whatever are fucking idiots, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe Lynn Jarvis, right?
Yeah.
Jury's out on him, right? But they are going to go and make sure they get the best for their team. What is the thing that they can maximize, or what advantage can they get? And for example, it could be something stupid. I don't think it'll be open testing, but I think what they will do is that they will increase the test days for everyone. Or the test tires, they will increase maybe MotoGP. Within the concessions, right? MotoGP riders can test at any circuit at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas in regulations, MotoGP riders can only test in official test days.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you had concessions, so I think there's definitely going to be a revising of the concessions, and I genuinely think that this is probably going to be ahead of the 24 and 25 for the 25 season. So they're going to be not really going to improve their engine. Like if Yamaha are going to stick with an inline 4 for 2025, then
they got us.
That's fine. But look, again, I think that's the way it's going to go.
This player's this way. They need testing so bad that Crash agreed with us. And Crash was saying that they were Crash was actually putting Honda down. They're usually their baby. Then they said, "Oh, Crash said they're leaving." I said, "Oh, that makes sense. They're shutting. Crash is not just getting shut down."
Oh, Crash, the podcast.
The podcast.
Yeah. So look, I heard that a couple of weeks ago that it was moving to once a month, and then Keith Ewan actually put out a tweet about it, and he's just saying, "Joe, this is their last one." And look, once a month wasn't really going to be feasible for them to do a podcast, which is it's fair, you know what I mean? But maybe I think there could have been a bit of a argy-bargy or something between them and Crash, obviously, if it was going to be pushed out to once a month. But look, I think in my ideal world, right? And I'll put it to you, I would love multiple different brands fighting for a race.
That's the cherry on top, right? You know what I mean?
Right. And
you don't need. There's no difference between having 3 European brands versus 3 Chinese or Japanese brands. Like when you used to be in the old days, you had 3 Japanese brands, right? Now, if it went to just 3 European brands, it would roughly work out the same. You worry about the racing more than
it would, but like, to be very honest now, and to be very fair, like when we were going back looking at the 500s, right, there was a massive difference between works bikes and customer bikes. Do you know what I mean? And I don't ever want to get back to that stage of where each manufacturer has to supply 8 bikes. Do you know what I mean? At all.
Well, yeah. I think being that there were 2 strokes versus 4 strokes, that really put a big hand in that of having the disparity there.
It did, but look, it came into a business then. Do you know what I mean? How would I say, a bike supply business, right?
Yeah,
and like it's kind of like, what is your budget, rather than give everyone, say, GP22s from last year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you would have 21s, 22s, and 23s. Do you know what I mean, on the grid right now, and you don't really want that disparity. We had that last year. There was 19, or 2 years ago, there was a 19 on and a 2021, or like there's 3 different generations of bike, and you don't really want that. Do you know what I mean? You want near enough to factory spec all the time.
Right.
Now look, like the only worry that I have with it, right, and if it does work out that it's just going to be extra or open testing, I won't even call it open testing, because I think they'll regulate how many test days you have or how many tires you have or whatever. But it will definitely be, in my view, an increase in testing.
Right. All right. We'll say that.
But like Ducati, like where I worry about Honda and Yamaha is the mentality in going racing, right? Give them fucking 365 days testing a year. Will they still make the same jump that Aprilia, KTM, and Ducati would make with 30 days testing? I don't think so.
But that's on them. If you have an even playing field, right? And you say, all right, you both have the same amount of testing. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, okay? If their engineering department is still lacking, okay, and shitty, if they keep getting the bottom of the barrel engineers, that's on them. You can't change that.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah. But you can't change that no matter how you cut the pie.
Exactly. So if just by reason next year that they give everyone 30 days testing, 30 full days testing, is the gap not going to widen?
It could. But, you can't say, well, the Japanese are so lousy. We have to let them, trip into it. We have to make it so hard for the Europeans that the Japanese win. And why? Because Joe Blow has a Honda in his garage and he's pouting. He's not. And you know what? There's difference between a race fan and a brand boy. If somebody is only looking at racing because they want their brand to win, they're a lousy racing fan because they're only there they're flighty. They're in, they're out. They're not really paying attention.
Yeah, but like I'd be the same with that with the UFC. Like, I love watching someone get the shit kicked out of them, but like I don't watch everything. I just watch.
That's what I mean. You get really casual. You'll stop watching it and come back and watch one bout. You know what I mean? You want that race fan, not the
But look, I'll never take it away. I spend time in Bangalore, India, for a couple of months, and I never realized it when I was over there. I was just talking to a fella, and he owned a Royal Enfield, right? Now, I thought it was a real Royal Enfield at the start. Do you know what I mean?
They look alike,
yeah. But it wasn't a real Royal Enfield, and because like when he said it to you, it's like, oh yeah, because like they're classic bikes from I didn't know it here, like it wasn't anyway. But then he was asking me what did I have, and I was just like, oh, I had an R1 and an R6, and like I could see in his face, he was just like, they're my dream bikes. Do you know what I mean? He's like, I know I'll never be able to afford to own one over here. I'll never ride one, never see one. So, look, again, it's about a story that maybe their dad has told them. I don't fucking know. Do you know what I mean? But like they see these bikes, they know they'll never own it. Do you know what I mean? But it then becomes the icon. Do you know what I mean? Of their thing. So like they're riding their pedal bike with fucking cardboard fairings of an R6.
Yeah,
we've all seen it.
I'll throw something at you. It's flipping you out. India and China, right? Mm-hmm. Because they have so many people, right? Don't forget there's 1 billion of them over there, 2 billion, right? China and India. That they're selling Ducatis and MVs over there like hotcakes because there are rich people in India and China and a good amount of them.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
Yeah. So there's a big market for upscale.
Let me tell you about China. I was in a taxi in China, in Beijing. And on the left-hand side of us, there was a young fella in a Ferrari. Right?
Yeah.
Not even fucking 21, 22, right? Ish. Up behind him came a fella on a scooter. And he had his wife and 3 kids on the scooter as well.
Yeah.
And it's Joe, look, I get it. There's 2 lines of rich and poor in it as well, but like I'm talking that majority of these brand boys that we do come across, Joe, owning one of those bikes is probably a holy grail thing to them. Even if it's a fucking 2008 fucking Honda CBR, do you know what I mean? It's a CBR. Do you know what I mean?
Because they were the first ones over there.
Yeah, but it's a dream to them to own one. So look, again, I really enjoy people that are passionate about the brand as long as they're a little bit realistic in what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Look, I want to be tall, dark, and handsome, but I'm Irish, fat, and thirsty. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that you get on with your life. But I think it can only be a good thing. I'm 100% against if they give Honda and Yamaha a free year or extra testing and no one else. If they do it fairly, I'm 100% for it. I believe that it'll be actually the best thing for the sport.
Too. I'm saying give everybody everything, and because they need it for one, it'll get them out of the habit too. I think because like especially Honda, they're not going to get out of that. Just get the rider to get us through. Let's get the ride. We need to have a super alien rider, right, to get our ass out of the sling, and they have it down to a habit. Like
yeah, and look, they have to get. You're right. You're spot on. And look, they have to build that bike so that Nakagami, is fast.
Yes,
so I mean, then your alien then gets faster. Do you know what I mean? And like, Yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting. The other thing then, I suppose, is it's silly season. And as we're shooting this today, Pedro Acosta's contract with KTM, the option on it has passed.
You're right.
So KTM have either told Acosta he's going to MotoGP with them or someone else. Now, he's been, in my view, he's been very fucking bullish about going to MotoGP.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I was talking about. I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was like, he said like 2 weeks ago, he's like, I will be in MotoGP for 2024. Doing another year of MotoGP or Moto2 is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
So he is talking to someone else as well.
Yeah.
Fairly advanced talks.
You could see that coming. Remember I said he needed to get a little bit bigger physically to go into the MotoGP, right? And he did.
Yeah.
You could see him going, working out in the gym, building himself up, looking himself in the mirror and going, okay, I'm ready. And I know it sounds like a small matter, but when you get a kid bulking up and he wants to do it right then and there. He has no patience, you know?
No. And look, it kind of reminds you of a little Mr. Marquez as well, no patience also. But no, look, I think it's very interesting. I wonder who else has him offered, like, because Dorna did come out and say that the other day that the third KTM team is not an option for next year. Because a lot of people were thinking that MotoGP would happen and they would run under the Husqvarna. And they've come out and they said that's not going to happen. Because really? I was actually thinking the same thing for Yamaha, actually. Do you remember years ago, Davi was in Honda and they wanted to get rid of Davi.
Yeah.
He had a contract. So they were forced to run 3 works bikes along with him. And I don't know, would Dorna let Yamaha run 3 factory bikes from the one main team next year?
Yeah.
And I think, like, the hot money right now is that Rins goes to Yamaha. The other hot money is that Mir is paying anyone to get him. Mir is paying to get off the Honda as well.
Right.
So I think
he's having nightmares.
Like, I fucking love the idea of Rins on the Honda or on the Yamaha. I fucking love it. Like, I think he could stick it to Colorado.
Yeah, he has that long.
He has that natural lines,
Euro line, that the long arcing lines for that. Yeah, yes.
He fucking drives the front of it through the floor. Like, do you know what I mean? It's every aggressive riding style that Yamaha needs right now. I think he has it, do you know what I mean? And I fucking love it too. Now, I did say this last year, and then he went on the Honda. But there is and I know people are going to go, well, he don't have a contract for 2024. Yeah, but he doesn't have the full works contract. He's a satellite. And normally there's a clause in there that he can leave for a factory team. Very similar to Jorge Martin has with Pramac. So I think there will be a clause there that he can get out and get onto a works factory bike if that comes around. But again, look, I feel very sorry for the 2 riders in Gas, if I'm very honest. Obviously, look, we haven't seen much of Poles because he crashed in the second practice.
And your boy,
my boy, like, he's doing well, but look, he's open. He's come out now openly about 3 days ago, and he said, "I don't know what's going to happen for 2024."
Right.
They said that he has a contract. Do you know what I mean? He's living up to his contract. I'm sure in his rookie year, they're like, you've scored 10 points all season or something. Do you know what I mean? And he's well met that already. But I think, I would be very surprised if Pol Espargaro comes back the same.
No, I don't think he'll come back the same either.
We do know that he's 1.5 centimeters shorter now.
Oh, ouch. Yeah. I know that for a fact because I am 2 inches shorter. But I am really screwed up. I can't imagine. You know,
he said he's 1.5 centimeters shorter. So look, I think I can't see him committing to be the same as before. I think, and I know I did a comment about Rins as well. As like, will he be the same? And a few people have said, look, like I don't think Rossi was the same since his Mugello crash either. Do you know what I mean? When he broke his leg, if you remember.
Yes.
He was still aggressive. He was
like, oh, he's the same. I said, he doesn't seem the same to me.
And I think I just think he learned that he's not immortal. Do you know what I mean?
Don't forget, people forget that they're not sitting on a bike like you're riding down the street. You got to be nimble on top of that bike. You're fighting it this way and fighting it. You don't go. It doesn't just flow like left to right. You're fighting.
You're dancing on it. Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're on. You're like your ass isn't on the seat. It's on. You know what I mean? You're on. You're on the pegs constantly. So, and actually, I was watching Isle of Man TT just a hot lap with someone, and like his arse. The only time his arse hit the seat was when the seat came up and hit his arse. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that he was resting. Do you know what I mean? That he was hovering on the bike, if you would call it. But yeah, look, I think it's going to be a strange one because the only place Mark can go now. Look, they could push Miller or Binder, but I don't know. I think Miller is still too valuable to KTM at the moment. Now, every day and month and year that it goes on, he gets less valuable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have to admit, talking about
Miller has a PR value too, like that Rossi did. Not the extent Rossi did, but everybody loves Miller kind of PR value.
He got caught there with now I love it, right? Because he just turned around and he was like to everyone, he was like, just stop fucking complaining and ride your bike. Do you know what I mean? They asked him the following week, like, did you get some backlash from your fellow riders? And he was like, well, kind of, Joe, maybe I could have worded it a bit better, but just focus on your own shit and stop complaining. Like, do you know what I mean? He's like, probably not my best way of phrasing it, but like, but he's right in because, I don't want the super Joe or not the footballer mentality to come in. Like, do you know what I mean? Someone knocks you off in one corner and you think, oh, my race is destroyed. Do you know what I mean? Just go fucking after it. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, no, take nothing away from them. You know, like they're fucking absolute warriors. But like, if you're constantly having a bitch and a moan about, oh, I don't have enough power, I don't have enough this,
it's not productive.
It's not productive. It's not. No. You know what I mean? Now, I get it. Like the last race in Aston for Yamaha, you could see their whole problems throughout the weekend with it. You know what I mean? Even in Sachsenring, you could kind of, I guess you could really see it too. But I just think, like, drop the prima donna shit. Now, look, like, remember when we were talking with Steve Parrish? Like, I think he was in the nail on the head. Like, there's very few old characters around the paddock now. Like, one of the only real ones that I would see in there actually now is Carlos Parnett, Bastianini's manager. Do you know what I mean? He's like one of the old school fucking nut jobs. Like, do you know what I mean? That it doesn't give a flying fuck who he insults or what. He says what he thinks, and that's it. Agostini would be kind of the same too, I suppose. And there's no real character anymore. Like, I don't know. It's just.
Oh, Agostini! Remember, you said that he used to bring the naked girls around.
That's right. Yeah, he was some boy.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, and look, I just think, I do think we need a character. I do think we need a fucking bitter rivalry still. And I know people will say, yes and no to it, but look, the Rossi versus Stoner years, Rossi versus Giovinazzo years, Rossi versus Biaggi, Rossi versus Marquez. That shit was what you were tuning in to see. For me, that's entertainment, right? It was full fucking hatred. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't fake or put on or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or it wasn't this fucking shit of, fighting you on the bike and then hugging you on the paddock. Like,
No, the Rossi and Biaggi. That was. I knew that one was for real. When you went to punch him in the mouth, that put a seal of authenticity.
Yeah. Now I did read something there. That Rossi and Marquez are supposed to team up in a charity thing. I nearly fell off the fucking chair, to be honest, when I read it. But
it ain't gonna be the three-legged race, I can tell you that.
It's good be now because the two of them are nearly fucking geriatrics. They'll be battered from bikes. But yeah.
Any news on Marquez? If he's staying, is he going? My God.
See, so you haven't seen this video yet because it comes out tomorrow, but like Pooch was asked a few tough questions actually, and it was one of the interviews where I believe Pooch, and firstly he said that about Marquez, and he said, look, I believe Mark will stay with us next year. Because, and I have to say that because he has a signed contract. But he said, if a rider doesn't want to ride with Honda, we will also respect that. We respect Mark's decision. He was also giving an update on Mir, and he was like, Mir, the injury Mir had in Mugello, realistically, he couldn't ride the bike at fast circuits. Right. He didn't have the strength in the hand, so he expects to see him back at Silverstone. But he said something just about going on about the Honda and the Japanese, and he's like, he alluded to that there is a problem with the communication. But I think being very honest now, I personally think Mark checked out of racing in Sachsenring. I think he's checked out.
He had that look. He did have that look like, that's it, I'm done. He had that boxer look. You ever see a boxer that quits in the corner? The guy that goes, that's it. They don't have to even say it. You know it. You can see him as the ref goes up to him. He's going to quit, and then he does. Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's that he's quit racing. I just think he's quit the bike.
Yeah.
And I kind of said it that it looked like Rossi in Laguna Seca in 2014.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, it was announced that he'd switch back to Yamaha.
Yeah.
When he crashed at the top of the corkscrew. And whatever way he went, he just like put the hand away to the bike and as if like turned his back and walked away. And I just got the vibe and I was just like, that's that fucking project done anyway,
And did you read there was trouble in paradise between Honda and Kalex?
I heard that too, but look, you see,
I could see that coming. It's starting to sound like it, and especially with the corporate ego that Honda has. You could just see it, the two bashing. You can see Honda; they want something right then and there, and it doesn't show up. They go, "Well, we'll do it ourselves." I don't think they were 100% into it from the get-go. Smart idea, but they just
I think there's a couple of things. I think the pressure is probably increased to the max right now at the moment because they're trying, in my view, to keep Mark for next year.
Oh yeah,
right. And I think
he has a
outsourcing.
But anyhow, sorry.
Outsourcing the frame to Kalex was one of the methods that they had tried to keep him. Now, the way Mark rode that Kalex was like his fucking life depended on it. And all he did was crash it. But here's where Honda, in my view, Honda's ignorance has come through, right? And I know that's a harsh word to say, ignorance, but they had the Kalex and all new parts go to Marquez, right?
Right.
Marquez was off fucking 3 races they didn't share the parts. You know what I mean? They didn't. They put Mark
Shit,
above.
that doesn't even seem right. It's so stupid.
Yeah, but look, again, all it is doing is, and I think, I think that's where the problem is that they needed to give those Kalex chassis not to Mark. You know what I mean? Not to fucking Mark.
I'll give you that. Yes, I'll agree.
They needed to give that to Rins and Nakagami to find out what's the right setting.
Yes.
Give it to Mark then for a session once they've bedded in and like 3 or 4 people actually finishing a race.
Yeah.
Getting the test data in, the mileage on it, understanding what's going on. Like Kalex didn't just fucking pick this chassis dimensions and thing. Honda gave them a starting point.
Right.
And what this tells to me, right, the Kalex chassis isn't working. Doesn't mean it's not going to work, but
it takes time.
It would give them this template. I would call it a template or information or a set, and they would go and they would design it. And then you need to bring it to the track and test it. So you need someone to stay on the fucking bike all weekend and just put the miles on it. Now, I know that Kalex chassis was over in Japan. Right? So you could be fucking guaranteed that Honda were copying that fucking chassis over there themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I see nothing wrong with that. They paid for it. They bought it.
Well, do they own the IP?
That's true. Right.
You know? So, but like to develop a chassis, right? Just to design a chassis from scratch is 9 months. Developing it, you'll never stop developing your fucking chassis. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is my view is the first go. Mark said it's not working. Nakagami said he didn't like the feel off the front of it as well, which is consistent with what Mark said. But there's in my view, there's more than a year's worth of development needed to get that chassis anywhere right dialed in.
Right.
So.
And he said that more or less. He said that from the get-go. He said, the Moto 2 ones took us a minimum of 9 months, and now we're dealing with a MotoGP chassis.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's more or less saying I at least need a year. You know what I mean? We're talking apples and oranges. This is a bigger project, so we need at least a year. And they, not crazy. It wasn't even 9 months.
Yeah, it wasn't. So look, I think there's massive pressure on Honda right now to try and keep Marquez, right? Are they pissing in the wind? I would probably think so, right?
Yeah.
He can't, even if I couldn't see him sticking with, like, if he doesn't go this year, he'll definitely go next year. Don't see him sticking with Honda long term anymore. And I think too many promises have been broken that I now believe that Mark he's done with them. Do you know what I mean? And yes, a broken rib is something sore, but these guys take a fucking injection and get on with it. So I mean, Joe, if there's a point there,
he's been out there with worse before. Trust me.
Yeah.
How many accidents he's had? 300 high sides or some ridiculous amount
this year.
Yeah.
This year. No, look, I just think, I worry about it, but I think it's probably the best thing for Honda if he does leave.
Yes. Yeah. Crash agreed with you too on that. They said they actually need the Japanese need to get off the relying on the riders. They need to just so they need something that everybody can ride. They need to design bikes for everyone.
Hello, Crash, if you're going to copy any of our stuff in the future again.
Yeah. I know they did. That's okay.
Just say.
Hey,
I know it's look. I think it's interesting. I think it would be good to see Mark on something else, and that's the other thing. Do you know what I mean? It's the mark of a champion. You can't win all your championships on one bike or one manufacturer. Do you know what I mean? It's like gotta win it on two minimum. Do you know what I mean? And yeah,
I
where
get
would
a
they
lot of
go?
people thinking all of a sudden it's Mark. It's Marquez. He's losing his skill. That's somebody blaming that's a fanboy blaming anything but the bike.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
is still good.
He is still good, but look, I don't know. I still have this thing about the fear. And like I mentioned it a while ago, Rossi, like Rossi was afraid of Marquez on the track. Like go back, the shit that Rossi used to be doing, he was afraid of no one. Do you know what I mean? And over time, that fear came in. Do you know what I mean? And I wonder, like, you have enough money. His personal life is in a good spot right now. He's getting fucked out the front door of the bike every weekend that he rides the fucking thing. Like,
Yeah.
I could just stay at home and be making mad love to my woman, drinking fucking cocktails and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
And like you see this even with fighters as well. Like, look at
Yeah.
Joanne.
You know what they say is the champion Mike Tyson. It's hard to get up 5 o'clock in the morning when you're wearing silk pajamas.
Yeah. But look at McGregor. No, McGregor. I can't personally. I know he's Irish, but I can't personally stand Conor McGregor. I think he was brilliant at the start, and then he became ignorant. Do you know what I mean? And if you're going to say you're going to represent your country, do it properly. Do you know what I mean? Don't be fucking acting the fucking idiot. But he's not as hungry as he was. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
he
no.
woke up every day looking for a fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now he's causing fights. Do you know what I mean? But he's not as hungry as he was, and I think that's that's happening to Marquez as well. Do you know, like he will still try his best, but like he'll walk home and he won't be fucking angry after finishing fifth. Do you know what I mean? He'd be fucking delighted. And like, remember Rossi finishing in fucking 10th place? It was like a fucking victory. Do you know what I mean? You're like,
yeah, at the end, yes.
And that's for me is the kind of point where they're no longer really invested. Like I think Rossi would have went in 2020 if it wasn't for COVID, right? He would have had his song a year. Do you know what I mean? And that would have been the end of it. And then he hung on to get the fans back, and yeah, and look, he probably stayed 2 years more, maybe 3 years more than he should have. But that, in my view, was kind of the decline of the champion. Like Rossi crashed more towards the end of his career. Marquez doesn't now trust the Honda. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
He's struggling now, and he's going to struggle like I realistically believe the only two spots available for him, and one is gas, so one of those guys has to go.
Right.
Or the other spot is Aprilia. And I think they'll get rid of Aleix.
Isn't there a spot over Grassini?
That apparently is going to Franco Morbidelli.
Oh, I'm playing that one. No, it doesn't spot a Grassini.
No, you see,
unless somebody hit their head, you know what I mean. I'm not saying they couldn't have motor oil on the ground. Somebody slipped,
No, and the reason I think that it's going to go to Morbidelli, the genuine reason is Ducati want to bring someone up next year.
And
I think it's VR46 they're going to put that person.
Run that by me again. How is this doing it? How is this putting Morbidelli in Grassini?
It's a bigger picture. So okay. So my understanding is that Ducati want to bring Alonso. No, it's not Alonso Lopez. Is it? No, there's another fellow. Tony Arbolino. They want to bring Tony Arbolino up to MotoGP next year. And there's talks about putting him in Grassini. Now, if I'm very honest, Ducati want to put Bezzecchi in Pramac, but VR46 are kind of stamping their feet saying, just give us factory bikes and we'll run them. Okay? So Morbidelli is an outcast. realistically next year. So if they don't give him Bezzecchi, if they don't get Bezzecchi, do you know what I mean? They'll put Arbolino into Grassini. Do you know what I mean? They'll hire someone from Paddock, and Morbidelli will be left without a seat.
I don't know. I'd get rid of him. Get rid of him.
Yeah, but it is getting rid of him, but the academy don't want him gotten rid of. The VR46 Academy.
Why? He's lost it. He's lost it. Morbidelli has lost his touch.
I don't know. I think he has. If he does an Alex Marquez and has a better year on the Ducati than he did on the Honda, I think maybe. It could rejuvenate his career, but I think it would rejuvenate it for a year or two, and then it'd be World Superbikes. But I think Morbidelli is the bartering tool, is what I would call it, because they'll want to put, I think, Arbolino into VR46. Morbidelli will go to Grassini, and Bezzecchi will go to Pramac. Because remember, there's a good possibility Rins to Yamaha.
Yeah.
And that could open up Pedro Acosta into LCR.
Okay. Did you say Pedro Acosta into LCR? Do you really think somebody's going to take a hot prospect that they've been waiting that long to get and put him on the death machine?
All right, like you stole a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, and if I was his manager, I'd be scared to death. I wouldn't want to touch that deal with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, but look, I suppose it is what it is. I think that's what I think will happen anyway. Well, I don't know about the LCR, but there's not really a lot of candidates out there who would be coming up. I know Yamaha, we're looking at Alonso Lopez, and we're looking at Agura. But if there is a bit of a clear out in HRC, I think that will only favour Nakagami again. So look, I think the silly season is fascinating, but I do think what's going to happen with Morbidelli is more of a bartering thing than anything. Yeah.
Did I tell you this? I did not tell you this. I did a good deed yesterday. Off topic for a second, just to make everybody happy. Going down, and I had my little scooter to go with a girlfriend. It's a Chinese scooter. I said, let me give it a ride. So I go out and get a ride, and I see this kid. He has to be 16 years old, and he's in a little red Honda Grom mini bike motorcycle kind of thing, right, on the street. Mm-hmm. And I come up beside him, and here this kid, you could tell he's been shoved in a locker all his life, right? You know, he's meek, he's mild. And I looked at him and I said, oh, you're doing really good, man. He goes, it almost goes 50. You know, and I'm like, oh, you're doing good. I said, most guys aren't brave enough to go on there. He had a smile on his face. It was like this big. It made his whole day. You know what I mean? He said he went to race me, and I backed off so he would, beat me, you know? He was so happy. I was like, yeah, I did a good deed for the day. He was,
So you got your ass beat by a fucking snotty nose kid. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It felt good. Yep.
Jeez, are you the new Marc Marquez or Valentino Rossi? Delighted with finishing second. I know. Look, fair play to you.
I made the kid feel good. You know what I mean? Big bastard like me. He beats a big guy like me. You know what I mean? He made him feel good. All
Yeah. Sure. Look, he'll be fucking. I bet you went home and he told his mom, and then his mom fucking battered him for going 50. Yeah. What was I going to say to you? So look, I think it's going to be interesting, and look, going back to the concessions. Let's wait and see. I don't see massive concession changes. But I see it across the open, across the field that it will be. But Silverstone coming up, I think it'll be very good to see where exactly Polo Spagro is. I actually am fairly worried about him, to be fair.
Yeah, you can't imagine getting back on a bike after having injuries like that.
Imagine the fucking thoughts that you'd have. Like,
I broke my back on a motorcycle, right? But
yeah.
I was young. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You know, and I wasn't like I had to stay in the hospital. It broke the vertebrae vertically. You know, like straight up and down. Really weird break. And it wasn't that bad, but I mean, he has to be, you're going that fast on that bike on the edge and you have to do it all over again. Jesus. I mean, yeah, like you say, you see Jesus every time you go around a bend.
That's it. Yeah, I met Jesus quite enough.
Yeah.
On Irish roads, I can tell you that. So, and just to go back to, so I made a statement there that Rossi and Marquez were joining forces for a charity thing. Now, this is kind of more sensationalized reporting from a certain network, but it was just like Valentino Rossi and Marc Marquez have put their rivalry to one side and both taken part in a charity initiative. The Angel Netto Foundation is launching a charity action, and Rossi and Marquez have each autographed paintings of themselves. The funds will go towards racing, to go towards the Motorsport Art and Smiles project to help. I think I know what his name is. He suffered a spinal cord injury thing. So Rossi's, I think, it will come autographed by the superstars themselves, and each painting will be auctioned off for a minimum of 10 grand. So look, they actually they're not meeting together, but they're just supplying photographs, signed photographs or paintings of themselves at the same auction.
Yeah.
Sensationalized fucking reporting. It gets on my fucking tits, man. Really. As you know, I have a particular gripe with a couple of fake news channels.
Oh, yes,
on YouTube. So just beware again of what you're reading or listening to on YouTube, because it's. Just launched this big new initiative.
Gone. He's staying. He's gone. Every day they have a different saying on there.
Look, to be fair,
he says it's unbelievable. It's shocking.
Shocking facts about Ducati.
Yeah, what you didn't know. It's like a Hollywood tabloid you see at the supermarket.
Or a bad porno.
Marquez rides with Bigfoot.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing actually there that I meant to say as well is that, remember I said to you last week that Pirelli were taking over Moto 2 and Moto 3.
Oh, yes.
Done deal. Done
deal?
Officially announced. Yeah. So there are no more Dunlop racing in the MotoGP paddock.
Did they give a reason for that? I'm surprised. But Dunlop makes it. By the way, folks, Dunlop makes a really good tire.
I actually have Dunlops on the R6.
Yeah, I always loved Dunlops, especially the one with the has one ply across the whole tire.
Right.
Because the last ply is one goes around the whole. It's seamless.
Right. Okay. Getcha. Yeah. No, I was. I have a set of Dunlops on the R6. Now, I will admit, when I saw them failing in the TTs and stuff like that, I did get a little bit nervous, but fuck it, I'll drive it on anyway. And see how we get. Look, and as well, I suppose just on the concessions and so on, like most people may, like when they're hearing us talk like that it's a done deal. None of the teams have actually been contacted yet directly. So no official, so I think what that was probably doing was Espinosa putting it out there that
the feeler out there to see, yes,
and test the thing. I think Ducati are applying, as I said earlier, in the right way, and sure, we're open to helping, but it has to be fair and equal. Aprilia have kind of said no.
Yeah.
And KTM are like, oh, well, look, it's not nice to
No.
see people struggling, but it's kind of in between an Aprilia and thing. And even Pooch turned around. And this is why I said about the thing about in Sunday's video that I kind of believe Pooch was because, like, even Pooch is kind of like, well, like, we haven't really asked for them yet. Do you know what I mean? But now, in fairness, Pooch turned around and he did say, I don't think I don't think it's up to us to make the rules or whatever, but I think we need to build a better bike.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I was like, I was actually nearly impressed.
Almost impressed.
It's
In a corner, but yeah, what else?
Yeah, still cagey about it. Yeah, but yeah, look, I think Concessions is not going to go away. I think maybe another 2 weeks and it'll burn itself out, and we'll know.
I'm hoping, because Christ, that's the most ridiculous thing though I've seen in my 40 years of watching racing.
Yeah, and look, I think it could have been the way that it was handled by the media as well, right? Because it was actually, when I heard it first, it was from Gigi Delinia, and he said like they hadn't been contacted, but he's like, we would only ever agree to helping people out or whatever if it's done fairly and equally across things.
And the fact that Yamaha and Honda's budgets are huge. That's like having a boxing match and you have a lightweight fighter on one side and a heavyweight on the other, and they go, listen, what happens is the heavyweight has to punch the lightweight, has to let him punch the lightweight guy a few times because we need to help him out. You're like,
but look,
he has to let him punch in the face. It's so back-asswards. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but look, for me, there's a couple of things here, right? So within the regulations, right, you're actually in your testing, you're governed by tires.
Yeah.
Right. So what's wrong with you? So let's say Yamaha, for example, right, when they were looking at an engine or running a V4 engine, right, they could probably start just say a V4 engine this year on a set of Michelin slicks, not MotoGP slicks. All they need is time and wear statuses on that engine. Do you know what I mean? Understand the engine, this, that, and the other. For Honda, for aero and stuff like this, I just don't understand. They have the budget to be doing things more than they're doing, and they're not. Right there, that's where I see it. So, if this testing comes in and if it's done fairly, great. But like right now, they have all the money in the fucking world that they need to develop their bikes, but they just do not have the time within the regulations.
I just don't think they care. I don't think they're a car company now. When Mr. Honda died, it became a car company, and Mr. Honda said it would.
But I just think
Honda's budget's so big, they could get on the phone and say, "Give me the best of the best in every in every aspect." All right, put an emblem on it and say it's a Honda, and we'll win.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah, but look, okay, right? A lot of people will go on and say, "Oh, they're winning in Formula One." Right? Honda just make the engine and the hybrid system in Formula One. They do not make the engineering of the chassis and whatever, right? Mm-hmm. If Honda's engine in Formula One was the be all and end all, then the Alpha Tauri, which is the other Honda supplied car, would be fighting with the Red Bulls, and it's fucking not. It's fighting towards the back, right? So the chassis is all important in Formula One. My view with Honda is yes, they are more focused on Formula One because that will sell more cars. End of story, right? Are they really worried about the bike industry? I don't think they are, but I think it's now becoming an ugly wart on the nose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's going to tarnish their motorsport heritage and stuff around the world. So I think they are going to do it. But right now, because they have, 220 or 120 tires a year to use, it's no good having 100 fucking million to throw behind it because you can't spend it.
Yeah.
You just can't spend it. They can't change their engine. They can change their chassis, but they need the relative rubber to understand if that is a good fix or a bad fix. Now, saying that, the other sort of thing, right, that in my view that they could probably look at doing is, say, take the chassis, and Yamaha could probably do this too. Take the chassis and the engine and run it on the current spec of it on Michelin's, right?
Yeah.
For example, and then make a tweak, do you know what I mean, and run it on the same set of Michelin tires again, and you could correlate an improvement or what from that, and that could be done outside of testing restrictions because you're not using the rubber.
True.
And like in the back hole of fucking Japan, who is going to spot them?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's why I'm like my understanding is that you can only test in your designated race circuits on race rubber and all of this stuff. But if you're not on necessarily race rubber, you're just doing a demo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like you said before, all the money in the world doesn't do any good if they don't have enough time.
But that's my point. That's my point. They do have the time. If they could look at the regulations in the way of like, how can we run our bikes outside of the regulations? Like they can run a bike in the streets thing as a promo, right? It's last year's engine or whatever. They can run last year's engine, this year's frame, run on a set of slicks, see what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Just a normal set of slicks that you can buy off over the counter. That's my view of it. Do you know what I mean?
But do you think but with the difference between a regular set of slicks and the tires they have on for the MotoGP, Simon Crafar came on there. I was really surprised. He says the MotoGP tire is 10 times harder than the slicks you have on a street bike.
I know that, but what my point is that they could use that tire as a reference. So you go out with your original chassis and you set a benchmark. Do you know what I mean? And then you use the same chassis, or you tweak your chassis, your settings or whatever with the same tire, and you use that as your benchmark. Did that help? No. Okay. So we're not going to waste time in testing with this. By the way, lads, we tried 3 different settings here. It gave us a little bit more positive feedback. I know it would be related to the tire, but it's something, it's direction to go and try. And I don't think they're doing that. Do you know what I mean? So how in a way can you legally operate outside of the regulations? I suppose is the question that I would be asking. Whereas I don't think they're even doing anything at all. Like back in Japan, I don't think they're doing any running or very limited running because they're using race rubber as the guide. And if they need to tweak the chassis, they need just to set a baseline with something and then see is there any correlation? Like you'll know it in your first test, right? So like if you correlate something and you say, okay, we found an improvement by adjusting this setting, right? Right. The lads go out with their known settings in session 1, FP1, and then they back to back that. And if there's no improvement, they know that correlation is off. Okay, it doesn't work. Try something else. Do you know what I mean? But it's like if you can find a correlation to something that's outside of the regulations, then you could use that to develop your bike outside of the regulations because you wouldn't necessarily be using MotoGP rubber or whatever, for example.
Right, I understand.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't know if that'll match up though. That's the only thing I was thinking, but I don't know if it.
Yeah, look, it's something. Do you know what I mean?
Which
I always worry about them. But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there for this week. Do you keep it? I think it's I'm interested to see what next week will bring. Although I don't think there'll be too much with the concessions now, and never know. Espinosa might just turn around and fucking shock us all on Monday and say, "Oh, it started." Do you know what I mean?
They said I want to go. They asked me to go on another. I want to do it just for shits and giggles. They said, "Do you want to go on a scooter run?" So I take that cheap ass scooter, right, and run with all the big with the Vespa. Boy, I'll tell you what. Yeah, mine costs $900 new. Theirs costs like 8,000, and you don't want to try to beat them. I will try to race them with the skinny little ass tires because they have like big tires and everything. I want to try with little skinny tires. I'll probably end up crashing.
Yeah, so what you're actually trying to say is that if you're not here next week, you've crashed.
Yeah, crashed. Yeah, crashed out.
Right, fair enough. Rightio. Well, look, on that bombshell, we will leave it there, and look, we'll see everyone again next week.
All right, take it easy, guys.
Peace.